Hi, this is Zach with Worn&Wound. Today we'll be taking a look at the Sinn 556i. Sinn is a brand that probably needs a little introduction to Worn&Wound readers, but if you don't know them, they've been around since the 60s, founded by Helmut Sinn. They're kind of one of the great tool watch brands. They're based out of Germany. They're made in Germany. Their watches, which range in price, like I think up to probably $6,500 or so, offer a lot of interesting technologies and a really kind of great German kind of sporty aesthetic. They do make dress watches as well, but they're really known for their tool watches. This model, the 556i, is their most entry-level watch. There's actually two, the 556i and the 556a. They're very similar, the difference being the dial layout. And this one comes to $1,090 new if bought from Watch Buys in the US. Prices might range globally, however. And that said, actually, their prices are about to go up, which is why we thought we'd review this now. Come September 1st, the price on this watch is going to go up. I don't know by how much of a percentage, but it will, almost definitely be over $1,100 at this point. But anyway, back to the 556i. What makes this watch kind of so great, and though it's an entry-level watch, it shouldn't really be considered as any lesser of a Sinn. It has a really nice aesthetic. It's a really nice size. It's a 38.5 millimeter case. It has at least an elaborate grade. I think it even might be a top grade ETA 2824 movement inside of it. A really beautifully machined and satinized case. And it's just one of those watches that, despite being kind of sporty, can be dressed up, can be dressed down. People see this watch and, just, even though it's so simple, it really appeals to almost everyone. So it's just a great, versatile watch. So let's take a closer look. The case of the 556i is, though simple, kind of one of the most appealing features of the watch. It's 38.5 millimeters wide, 45.6 millimeters lug to lug, and a little over 11 millimeters tall. So it's a really nice kind of compact sport watch size. 38.5, I think a few years ago would have been considered tiny, but it's kind of the perfect size for a watch like this, kind of a versatile sport watch. It doesn't need to be big. It just should be wearable, it should be kind of nimble, and this really achieves that. And the case design itself, like I said, it's fairly straightforward and then just really, really well executed. So you have these thin tapering lugs here with just really sharp edges along the side. You have a nice thick bezel here that kind of stands up. It has a nice kind of strong presence to it. Off the right side here, you have kind of wide, squared-off crown guards. Once again, they kind of have a nice, kind of broad shoulder. They give it, some mass to that side of the watch. You have a screw-down crown here that measures 6 millimeters wide by about 5.5 millimeters long. So it's nice and long. It's very easy to grasp, even with the crown guards there. But it's very sturdy. The whole thing has a 200-meter water resistance too, which I think, is kind of like a really, really nice not to dive water resistance, so it's totally versatile. You can get this wet, you could jump in a pool with this, it's fine. Flipping it over, you have the display case back on this model, which shows off the movement inside. Once again, that's a ETA 2824-2 with some decoration to it. Obviously, you have this gold tone Sinn rotor. I believe it is a top grade movement. It's a little hard to tell online. Kind of people go back and forth if it's just elaborate, if it's top. But either way, it's definitely not a base movement. You can see that from the decoration on the movement itself. I believe there's some rhodium plating on the side. You have blued screws, so it's definitely a higher level of 2824. The finishing on the watch is also very simple. It's like a satinized finish, so it's kind of like a brush, but it's a little bit of a finer brushing to it. So it's between kind of polish and matte. It's a really, really nice finish. One thing that I also really like on Sinns and other tool watches is that they have drilled lugs. Just makes strap changing a lot easier, and it's just, I think it also adds a little bit more of a rugged aesthetic, like it just works with it. But classic sport watches, when you look back at old Rolexes from the 50s, even their, Oyster watches, they always had that, and I think it's kind of a useful utilitarian detail. The dial of the 556i is very straightforward, bold, but minimal at the same time. I mean, you have a very limited amount of markers here. Conversely, the 556A, which is a nearly identical watch, has big 12, 3, 6, 9 to give it more of that kind of pilot aviator look. But this is still kind of considered to be an instrument design style. So you just have this primary index here of large rectangles, all loomed with smaller rectangles in between them for the individual minutes, and that's it. It's very bold, striking looking. It's at once minimal in the sense that it's kind of sparse and restrained, but the markers themselves are so high contrast, especially on the black dial here, which happens to be a gloss black, that they really have a ton of presence. So you get a nice mix of things that I think actually appeals to both pilot watch enthusiasts. It also appeals to tool watch enthusiasts, and I think it even appeals to just people who like kind of graphic design looking objects. At 3 here, you have a date window, show with a white date on a black disc. One matches very well with the dials. They do that. They always do good things with their dates. And the 556A actually has the date moved down off of 4, but rather than being at an angle, they correct the date so it's still upright, and it's really cool looking. I actually almost wish that detail was on this version. It's the one thing I kind of miss, a little uniqueness in that feature. Then you have Sinn below 12, and you have automatic above 6, and that's it. Very sparse. The hands then are Roman sword hands, kind of classic aviator style. They're small enough to not, kind of be that overly big, broad style, but they still definitely give the pilot look to it. I like them. There might be actually a little bit of discord. If I were to pick it apart, a little bit of discord between the shape of those markers and those hands. If you look at 70s military watches, specific German ones, you have these kind of more squared off hand shapes that could have been interesting to see here. It's just for the sake of argument. The dial on this one, like I said, is gloss black, which makes it a much, much deeper black than you might typically find on a watch. When you see it next to a matte black, you'll be like, oh wow, it's striking how much darker that is. And it's really nice, except for that it does pick up a bit more glare. So it's, that can go back and forth, but it has a really nice, stark, deep blackness to it. The Sinn 556i is definitely has impeccable construction and really killer aesthetic, and a pretty good price point at $10.90, though you can find it at a better price used. But the one thing it is lacking is actually any of Sinn's tech, which they're really known for, and that is obviously why it is the price it's at. Though there are some competing brands, Damasco and Archimedes specifically, that are starting to offer some things that you'll find in higher end Sinns. We have here also an 856 UTC, and this is conversely one of the watches with a lot of tech in it. And this one new is around 1800, I believe. So first off, you have a tegimented case, which is hardened to 1200 Vickers. You can actually see it's like a darker gray, as well as a matte gray. That is, I believe, part of the tegimenting process is that it will kind of make it a little bit darker. On the side here above the lug, you have this kind of hole which with a blue dot in it, and that's actually a copper sulfate capsule that is used to dehumidify the watch, which you probably won't really run into an issue in day to day because of the good seals on a watch. But if you were to go from an extreme climate change or something, I believe that's when your watch might frost up, and this prevents that. The watch also, I believe, has anti-magnetic shroud around the movement for 80,000 milgauss or whatever it is, which is pretty standard anti-magnetic, but you're not going to have that with an open case back. Once again, not really needed. And this also has a UTC, so it's a GMT movement. You can also clearly see, just talking before, the gloss black here, you can see the matte black is a much lighter black, and really, it almost looks gray when you see it next to the deep black of the gloss. So that's just an interesting thing to note. But yeah, this is what Sinn is kind of really known for. This watch at $1,800, though expensive, would be $8,000 by another brand. It's just an absurd amount of engineering going on here. So, but still beautiful, and you can also see the kind of familial relationship and how the 556i kind of leads into some of their bigger, more badder watches, if you will. On the wrist, the 556i wears really well, and like I said, the size of this watch just is perfect. Proportionally, to itself, nothing is too big, nothing is too long, nothing is too wide. And then on the wrist, it's just, this great size that is very easy to wear for a long time. It's easy to wear if you're doing something very active, but it's also totally acceptable if you're at an office or, even a more formal setting. I think you can dress this up or down with, depending on the strap option and what you're wearing. But it's just, it's just the right size. 38.5 is also great. You can definitely have a smaller wrist than I do. I have a 7-inch wrist. If you have 6-inch, 6.5-inch, I think it would still fit. And I also think this would totally fit up to like a 7.5, 8-inch wrist as well. and then it's just a matter of taste if it gets too small after that. Aesthetically, like I said, it's it's stripped down, but it's got a lot of presence. So there's no, you're not going to miss it. It's so stark. The white stands off of the black so strongly, and it's just has a nice bold look. Very, very legible too. You never look at this watch and kind of have to guess. I mean, granted, there are no numerals on it, but it works out because of the logo placement and everything that you just always can read it at a glance. This is the 556i features 20 millimeter lugs. There's a couple strap options you can get. Actually, for $1,330 right now at Watchbuys, you can get it with a bracelet, which I think a lot of people like. It's like an H-link bracelet, but this is the less expensive option. And this black leather strap that it comes on is beautiful. It's a very soft and supple strap with nice padding to it. I mean, the leather just feels very luxurious and nice. It has a heavy stitch to it that's a little off-white, so it's not too stark or sporty. It has a bit of a vintage quality to it. It's just a beautiful leather strap. I don't know who made this. I know some of their straps are supplied by the German brand D Modell, so this very well might be as well. I wouldn't be surprised because they really, just have a high level of quality to them. The buckle here is a Sinn signed buckle. It's a nice deep signature there. Otherwise, just a basic thumbnail buckle. But this watch, like I said, it takes to many different straps styles, so we're going to show you a few others now. For a much bolder and more aggressive option, but one that just looks so cool, I put it on this Gas Bones strap here. Gas Bones is a brand in England that kind of make these to order, where you tell them the length of your lugs and everything. And it's just a really brutal looking strap that is very military, very strong looking, but you can see how it plays off of the more pilot aesthetic from the watch and just makes the whole thing much sportier and like I said, much more aggressive. So if you're going to do something that requires some really intense endurance or something, I don't even know, it just looks very cool. Here we have the 556i on a classic Nato. This one's from Crown & Buckle. It's one of their gray premium ones. It's a beautiful color. It's kind of a silvery blue. And also, it works really well with this watch. Before we had on the green nylon, which, gives a military look. And now this is more of kind of a monochromatic look that I think is actually kind of a nice mix. For Natos usually add a lot of very aggressive edge to this. This is almost in between. There's something kind of stylish about this because it's monochrome. I think it actually looks really nice with this blue shirt here. So, but naturally, you can put any Nato on here. It's a great way to wear it in the summer. So, just an extremely versatile watch. To wrap up, the 556i is a very cool watch from Sinn. As their entry-level watch, I think it offers a lot of the Sinn aesthetics, though it might not offer the Sinn technology. So that is the one drawback of the watch, is you're not getting a hardened case and you're not getting any kind of weird fancy gases or copper sulfate, anything like that. It's just a very well executed stainless steel watch with a good movement in it. But it's gorgeous, and one of the great things about this watch is it's a timeless style. It's almost an addictive watch to wear. You look through your collection, you're like, oh, what do I want to wear today? And then you see the 556i, it's just like, that'll work every day because it's just simple, sporty. It's just aggressive enough to have a little bit of personality, and it's also restrained enough to not be over the top and not be trying too hard in any way. It's just very kind of honest and authentic. The size, the 38.5 millimeters, is perfect. I wouldn't want it to change at all on this watch. I think it's the right size. It's very comfortable. Great day-to-day watch because of that. The price on this watch is $1,090 currently, and that is from Watchbuys in the US. It will be going up though as of September 1st, and I don't know to what, like I said before. So if you want to get one at this price new, you got to jump on that now. These watches are regularly for sale on forums, and at that, if you get it secondhand, which I think is totally, a good way to get it, you're usually going to see it between like $800 and $1,000, depending on the condition, if it has a bracelet, if it's still under warranty, things of that nature. But at under $1,000, this is, a really killer watch, and at just over $1,000, it's also great. There's other Sinn watches that are entry level, the 556A, if you want more of the pilot look, the aviator look, and then the 104, which comes in a bit more than that, has a bezel and has a date day, and it's a bit of a different aesthetic, but there's a little bit of a range there to check out. But if you're looking for a solid, sporty, pilot kind of infused watch, the 556i is definitely hard to beat. Please read the full review on Worn&Wound. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you.